4 out of 5 Americans believe that it is appropriate to spank their children. 2 out of 4 believe that it is to start spanking the children at the age of 6 months. 3 out of 4 start using objects when they spank the children. Today I'm going to talk about why parents shouldn't spank their kids. First, I'm going to talk about why children get spanked. Second, I will talk about the effects of children getting spanked. And then last, I will talk about other solutions. First, I'm going to talk about why children get spanked. How many of you guys don't like to do chores at your house? Yeah, well, how many of you guys don't like to be told what to do? Well, many people believe that just because we get told what to do that we're not children anymore, or just because we're like 18, 17, where you don't need to be told what to do anymore. Well, between the ages of 13 and 18 is when children get told what to do. For example, in Allen's study, 157 children who were 13 years old were videotaped describing their most disagreement with their parents. And the 3 that were the most disagreements were the chores, money, friends, and especially grades. Well, then again, the study was done again between the ages of 14 and 18, because between the ages of 14 and 18 is when teenagers turn into get more mature than they were. Well, in this study, it was determined that only 40% of the children would say no to drugs or no to alcohol than rather talk back to their parents. Many people like to talk back to their parents because they don't like to be told what to do. So it was between the ages of 14 and 18 that 40% didn't want to be told what to do or anything. According to Dr. Thomas Gordon, children don't misbehave. Children just behave to get their needs met. So basically, have you guys ever been to the store where you guys see little kids throwing tantrums all the time? Well, if you go to the store and you always see a little kid throwing a tantrum, it's not because he doesn't know how to behave. It's just simply because he wants this certain item and he can't have it, or simply because there isn't enough money to buy it for, so they started throwing tantrums, such as like crying, kicking, just like we would if we were like younger. I'll like to show you guys an image. In this graph, you guys can see, from the year of 1989, the rate was up to 80. And then in the year of 2014, it went down to 70. Well, Americans believe that children should get a good hard spanking at one point, because it's the only way to have them behave. But what they don't see is that children don't know what they're doing at a certain age. 13-year-olds, yes, they know what to do, but you can't have a 13-year-old do something that you want an 18-year-old to do, so they don't understand that. So 70%, as you can see on the graph, it did decrease a little from 80% to 70%, but that's only 10% in a few years, which is not that much, so you would expect it to be lower. But 80% people, in the year of 1989, 80% people believed that it was good to spank their children, but then it went down to 70, which is okay, but it still needs to go a little bit lower. Next I'm going to talk about the effects of spanking children. So Karen Steffens was the director of the Illinois State University of the Child Care Center. She says that children in general do tend to grow up to be like their parents. So if you guys are getting spanked, or if you are spanking your child, then it is to lead that he will spank your grandchildren, and then that his child will spank their child. So it's just this leading chain that will keep going and going, generation after generation. Well, so how many of you guys look up to your parents as role models? Because I do look up to my parents as my role models, even though they're not as many people, but I look up to them. And if I look up to them, it's if they do this, then I'm going to do this. If they spank my little sister, then I will spank my child, because it's just generally they are the role model. Well, there was a study done in the year of 1960s, in the early 1960s, and then it was done again in the 2009, which was the National Longitude Study of Youth, which was a study that explained the prevalence and determination of spanking children. For example, like the age of 3, they noticed that children were getting spanked at the age of 3, so they were testing their ability to think and stuff, like their cognitive thinking, and then they retested them at the age of 5, and it was proven that at the age of 5, at the age of 3, it was 52% that was fine, and then with the spanking, it was 42%. So it decreased. It did decrease. And then also not that, but it decreased. It decreased in. It was a study between 2 different kinds of children. So it was proven that if you didn't spank your child, that it was gonna be less likely that their ability to think faster would be better than those children who did get spanked. Not only that, but like physical punishment is technically, people think that physical punishment is the only way that you can make a children learn, but physical pain isn't making sure that the children learns. It rather makes the children more aggressive than he was before, because he believes that this is the only way you can do anything. I'm going to show you guys another image. So this is a graph about spanking where the 72, it goes up, it's from 72% all the way to 88%, which is not decreasing but rather increasing, because parents believe that it's appropriate to spank the children. But what they don't understand is it can cause physical and emotional pain to the children, which can later on develop into depression, and then they can have like regrets and stuff, as many as they want. Finally, I'm going to talk about other solutions instead of spanking. So as I mentioned before, in the study of the National Longitude Study of Youth, which was proven over and over again that spanking is ineffective, and that long term spanking is ineffective, of course. So there should be other solutions, such as like problem solving, not like, instead of like saying, oh, you're grounded, or I'm gonna spank you because you did this and that. You shouldn't do that. Instead, you should just do a problem solving. Spanking leads to a misbehavior, like I mentioned earlier. It's a more of aggressive kind of behavior. And if you're like arguing with your children, if you're arguing with your child, don't argue. Like, be the bigger person. You're the parent, so you should be the bigger person and walk away from the argument, because you are more tempted to hit your child when you get all angry, and when you don't know what to do because you're just angry and just want to like hit him. Well, sometimes like at school, I don't know, like for little kids, if you go to school and you're wearing like a shirt like I'm wearing right now, and they see like you have like a mark, they will ask you, like the teachers will ask you what's going on, and little children don't know what they say most of the time, so they can be like, oh, my mom spanked me or something like that. And then, so if that does happen, you can get your children taken away from you. So basically, spanking is a misleading behavior. Kind of like, I'm not saying it's child abuse, but it can lead up to that point where it can be child abuse, because they can say that you guys spanked them because they weren't doing something. Like, for example, my cousin, he spanked his child one day because she didn't want to get up to go to her grandma's, and so she spanked him. He spanked her, and then so the little girl, the first few days they didn't see it, but one day she wore a shirt like the one I'm wearing, and then the teacher asked, and the little girl told them, and so the school took the hands and matter, and then they called the police and everything, and they picked up the other children. And for him, it was just a hard thing. He regretted hitting his child, because there's other ways to solve the problem, not just hitting. So he has to fight to get his children back and back, and he didn't even get his children back. So make sure you guys always think about what the consequences are of you hitting the child and what the child will be. Today I have talked to you about why children get spanked, the negative effects of spanking, and other solutions. The question of whether or not children could spank their children or parents should spank their kids is not an easy question to answer. But there are other solutions to correct the children's behavior. Thank you.